video. Over to you, Emily.
This meeting will be conducted as Contra Costa Transportation Authority. This meeting will be conducted as a Zoom webinar to allow for public participation and comments. The Contra Costa Transportation Authority does not condone hate speech in any form. We continually strive to make life better for all members of our community and create an atmosphere where everyone feels a sense of safety and belonging. We ask that anyone who wishes to speak does so with civility, respect, and kindness for others. Citizens will have 3 minutes to speak. It is requested that public speakers state their names and organizations, but providing such information is voluntary. Citizens participating in person wishing to speak should submit a public speaker card to the clerk. Citizens participating by Zoom wishing to speak should use the raise hand feature or dial *9 if participating via phone, and the chair or staff will call upon them at the appropriate time. Written public comments received in accordance with the teleconferencing special notice on the meeting agenda will be provided to the members. If authors of the written correspondence would like to speak, they should raise their hand in Zoom or submit a public speaker card, and the chair will call upon them at the appropriate time. All written correspondence received after that and during the meeting will be entered into the record. Thank you for participating in a meeting of the Contra Costa Transportation Authority.
Thank you, Emily. Emily, could you please conduct the roll call?
Member Ash.
Present.
Member Bankert.
Present.
Member Esquivel. Here. Member Esselsago.
Present.
Member Miller.
Present.
Member Patel.
Present.
Member Saunders.
Here.
Member Shakaran.
Here.
Member Stark.
Here.
Member Wayne.
Here.
Vice Chair Lovejoy.
Present.
Chair Carr.
Present.
We do have a quorum with members Erickson and James absent.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is public comment. Emily, have we received any written public comments?
We do not have any public comments.
Is there anyone wishing to speak during public comment on an item that is not part of the agenda? And we have no public members today, so we will move forward after that. Next on the agenda is the consent calendar, which includes the summary of actions from our April 23rd meeting and acknowledgement of the member attendance log. Are there any changes or comments from any members of the committee? Emily, any written public comments on the consent calendar items?
We do not have any public comments.
And no one from the public to speak, so I can ask for a motion to approve the items on the consent calendar.
So moved.
Thank you. Member Ash, a second.
Member Lovejoy, Vice Chair Lovejoy.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Emily, please conduct a roll call vote.
Member Ash.
Aye.
Member Bankert.
Abstain.
Member Esquivel. Aye. Member Esselsago.
Aye.
Member Miller.
Abstain.
Member Patel.
Abstain.
Member Saunders.
Aye.
Member Shakaran.
Aye.
Member Stark.
Aye.
Member Wayne.
Abstain.
Vice Chair Lovejoy.
Aye.
Chair Carr.
Aye.
All right, motion passes unanimously with members Bankert, Miller, Patel, and Wayne abstaining, and members Erickson and James absent.
Thank you, Emily. We will now move to regular agenda items, of which we have two. And this is checklist season. The first item is an action that will be introduced by Matt and presented by Mel Maxon.
Good evening, Chair, committee members. As the chair said, it is checklist season. We are in the middle of it, and tonight is going to be a West County night. We have two checklists this evening from City of San Pablo and City of El Cerrito, not quite neighbors, but pretty close. So I will, you're all familiar with the checklist process, so let's just kick things off, and I'll hand it over to Mel Maxon and let her introduce who she's got here, and have her walk you through the calendar year 2022 and 2023 checklist for the city of San Pablo.
Thank you. Good evening, Citizens Advisory Committee. My name is Mel Maxon. My pronouns are they, them, and I am an assistant planner for the city of San Pablo. With me tonight is Matt Brown, senior civil engineer in the Public Works Department. Tonight, I will be presenting the city's GMP compliance checklist for reporting years 2022 and 2023. I will begin with an overview of some of our most significant capital improvement projects of the reporting period. First up is the San Pablo Avenue Bridge Replacement and Intersection Realignment Project. The total budget for this project is $22.5 million. It will involve a new bridge structure at the intersection of San Pablo Avenue, Road 20, and 23rd Street. This will include a realignment of the intersection. There will also be pedestrian and transit improvements to support safe and efficient multimodal transportation. The funding for this project is sourced from the Caltrans Highway Bridge Program, the West Contra Costa Transportation Commission's Sub-Regional Transportation Mitigation Program, or STMP, and city funds. Next up is the Rumrell Boulevard Complete Streets project. The budget for this project was $19 million. It includes a multitude of safety improvements for both pedestrians and cyclists. Some of the improvements include Class 4 buffered bike lanes, flashing beacons and median islands at crosswalks, additional lighting, ADA ramps, benches, trash enclosures, and wider sidewalks. Additional features include new street trees and plants for street greening, and improved storm drain infrastructure and bioswales. Street improvements include asphalt repair, slurry seal, and new traffic signal systems. The funding for this project was sourced from Measure J, Proposition 1, the Active Transportation Program, or ATP, the California Natural Resources Agency, or CNRA, SB1, and city funds. This project was completed earlier this year. The Sutter Avenue Urban Greening Project had a budget of $5.5 million. The objective of the project was to reduce urbanized flooding, improve water quality, and increase infiltration. The project also facilitated urban greening and tree planting, as well as traffic calming and improved pedestrian accessibility. Funding for this project came from the EPA, the California State Water Resources Control Board, or SWRCB, Prop 1 grant, the CNRA Prop 68, Measure J, SB1, and city funds. This project was completed last month and is on schedule for closeout. The budget for the San Pablo Dam Road / I-80 Gateway paving project is $2.5 million. The scope of this project will include safety improvements like flashing beacons at crosswalks, improved lighting, ADA ramps, and new crosswalks. In addition, there will be new trees and plants for street greening, asphalt repair, overlay of new pavement, and new traffic signal systems. This project will be paid by Measure J, SB1, and city funds. It should be completed by late 2026. Now I will go over some of our larger development projects in San Pablo. In 2022, we had a total of 65 dwelling units permitted, more than twice the number permitted the previous year. Of the 65 units, 54 were extremely low-income units. As San Pablo is a lower-income community, we have an easier time developing more affordable housing units and a harder time meeting our RHNA numbers for above moderate income level units. 2023 is a similar story. We had a total of 76 dwelling units permitted, 2/3 of which were low income level, and 10 being above moderate income. The great majority of our new units are ADUs, although we do also have a few larger apartment buildings that have pulled permits. As the city is extremely dense and built out, once these larger projects are completed, there may be a slowdown in development, and it would likely be the redevelopment of an existing underutilized site for future projects. So you may recognize some of the projects I'm about to show you from our presentation 2 years ago. I wanted to provide some updates on their progress. Alvarado Gardens at 13831 San Pablo Avenue is a 100% affordable 100-unit project. Construction was split into 2 phases, and Phase 1 is now nearing completion. Here's a photo of Phase 1 of the project. You can see where this viewpoint is located by the red box in the map on the right. We are all very hopeful that Phase 2 gets completed, but the developer has had setbacks obtaining the funding to begin construction. They have applied 8 times for the state's low-income housing tax credits and have yet to be selected. The last time you saw this project, it was just a design rendering, but here it is, all done. This supportive housing project at 2555 El Portal Drive was the redevelopment of an existing vacant office building into permanent supportive housing for people experiencing homelessness. It included 54 micro-housing units with space for up to 60 residents. The certificate of occupancy for this project was issued in July of 2024. Chattelton Place will be a residential townhouse development consisting of 20 townhomes and 8 ADUs, with 1 townhome being affordable and the rest market rate. Phase 1 is nearing completion, with 9 of the units already up for sale and 2 already sold. Phase 2 is just beginning, with the foundations under construction. This project you might also recognize, but unfortunately I do not have an updated photo showing it all built and beautiful. That is because similarly to Alvarado Gardens, this project is also struggling to get to construction. Pinewood Terrace would be a mixed-use multifamily residential development of 91 units. 19 units would be affordable, and there would be over 9,000 square feet of ground floor commercial area. Even if this specific project does not come to fruition, the property is at a prime location along San Pablo Avenue and one of the few large undeveloped parcels in the city, so we are hopeful that there will be dense multifamily housing developed on this site at some point. There are a number of plans, programs, and projects happening in San Pablo. We obtained funding for a general plan and housing element update, with our housing element getting certified in May of 2024. And our general plan update recommended for approval by the Planning Commission at their meeting last night. City Council will hold a public hearing to adopt the general plan update in early July. We are very busy in the Planning Division as we also work on map and text amendments to our zoning code. Part of the general plan update also included the Rumrell Corridor Plan, which will help to guide the land use and development of one of the lower income neighborhoods of the city. Additionally, we recently completed 2 transportation plans, a mobility hub in the Contra Costa College neighborhood of the city, and a citywide sustainable transit-oriented development master plan. The city also continues to participate in the Regional Transportation Planning Committee and related activities, including WICTIC, the STMP Development Fee Mitigation Program, County Planning Directors, ABAG/MTC Regional Housing Production Efforts, and the Contra Costa County Consortium for Technical Assistance on Housing Element Updates. And with that, either myself or Matt would be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mel. For these, we typically do go around the DS to give everyone a chance if they wish to ask any questions. And let's start with, on my left, with Member Salcego and go counterclockwise.
All right, thank you. Hi, thank you for the presentation. Just a couple questions. So PDF page 88, I was curious to find out what is that full trash capture device?
I think I would defer that question to Matt Brown.
Okay.
Okay, so full trash capture device is a concrete vault that goes in the ground and is connected to the storm drain system and collects water from the watershed into the storm drain system, goes into a vault. There's chambers to collect trash of various sizes. It's a flow-through device which has to be maintained depending on, random, at specific time intervals, probably more frequently in the winter, and then, in the summer, but it is a maintenance, you go in, you access through manholes, clean out the trash, which is separated, and then it flows through to creek or stream.
Okay. Thanks. Great. Thank you. Next question has to do with the strategies in place to ensure sustained funding for the non-LSM beyond 2025. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so, San Pablo, okay, for the folks online. Hi, Matt Brown, Senior Civil Engineer, City of San Pablo. Strategies that we look for grant opportunities. We do use portions of the general fund, in addition to incorporating things, the money that we get through RMRA. We have Measure J. So we try to just pool resources, especially with something like REMREL. We actually had 10 funding partners by the time that was done. So we're very active in trying to find grants, connecting, that net, casting our net wide to try to find what resources we can to fund money. And then we have standard projects that we try to do, standard budgets for like ADA. We try to incorporate whenever we do something, use, standing budgets from those to put together with other fund sources so that we can accomplish our goals.
Okay. And last question. Have you all begun aligning your zoning regulations with the forthcoming updates to your general plan?
Have we begun aligning them? Could you explain what you mean by that?
So in the report, it says that you're updating your general plan.
Yes.
And so how are you approaching that in relation to like your zoning regulations?
So we started with the general plan itself, and we had the housing element already updated. And then we went through each of the other elements and updated them for mostly text changes, updates, because a lot of it was out of date from 2011. And then we are working to get the general plan adopted and approved. And once we have that approved, we're going to work on the specific zoning changes so that the zoning will then match the updated general plan. Does that answer your question?
That does, yeah. That was,
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
See, Member Wayne, you snuck back in, so why don't we swing over to you?
Yeah, just one, I think I read that the San Pablo TOD Transit Oriented Development Plan was gonna be completed early, 2024? Has it been
Yes.
completed?
Yes, it has.
Thanks, that's all.
And so I don't forget, Member Shakiran, if you can hear me, I want to make sure we capture anything you may have. Okay. Maybe not. Member Bankert?
Yeah, I was curious if you knew what the occupancy rate is for your rentals.
That's a great question.
It leads me to the next question, is just on, what the demand is for the density projects that you're looking at. You've got a couple there that aren't funded yet, that are multifamily sites, and was just curious as to that demand.
We have high demand for the affordable units, very high demand. Market rate is a bit less so. In terms of our occupancy rate, I don't know if this answers the question, but I know that most of our housing is rental housing in San Pablo. I don't know if that exactly answers the question.
Not totally, just curious as to, at what rate they're rented out, I guess. So what percentage of those actually are occupied?
Right. If you'd like, I'd be more than happy to get back to you on that.
Yeah, not urgent, but that would
Okay.
be good information. Thank you.
Yes.
I was just wondering, because you were talking about the transit-oriented development plan. I know MTC has this transit-oriented communities policy whereby if your city is compliant, then you can access federal OBAG funds. So I was kind of just curious from all the cities really, have you guys, are you guys compliant, or do you guys find challenges being compliant with that policy? Because I feel like for smaller cities, that could be a pretty big lift. So I'm just wondering if you guys have, where you're at on that.
I think we're hoping that adopting the Sustainable TOD Master Plan will be a good step in the direction toward compliance, because it can be challenging. But we're hoping that it will open up opportunities for us to access more funding so that we can then have some implementation projects that were advised in the plan.
Okay, and then are you working with MTC staff to kind of negotiate whether or not you can access funding without being fully compliant?
Not at the moment, but that is something that we can look into in the future.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thanks. I got two questions, one on transportation and one on housing. So on the housing one, I mean, compared to other cities, you guys seem to be doing pretty well with the ADUs. Are you able to figure out who's living in them? Some communities, they become Airbnbs, they aren't being lived in. I mean, how do you guys feel you're doing, and are you able to measure that and see
Yes. So we're not measuring it, and we don't really have the capacity to enforce it at this time. The most that we've been doing is just deed restricting the units, so we're kind of relying on the honor system with property owners having agreed that they won't rent for a period of less than 30 days, the ADUs. But I also know that I think the deed restriction laws are changing potentially from the state, so that might be different. But the short answer is we don't know. Sometimes when we're looking on Zillow for San Pablo, we will notice if an ADU unit is listed, but I don't know that we have moved that toward code enforcement to try to enforce the deed restriction.
And so, I mean, do you guys not want to measure it, or are you not allowed to? I mean, it just seems like, that's, I think, a lot of the purpose of why it was there, so that, a single person would have a less expensive place to rent, but I don't know if that's really happening. So are you guys not allowed to, or how does that work?
To my knowledge, we're allowed to. It's not that we aren't allowed to. It's, I think, for us more an issue of capacity at this point. We don't even have a housing division in the city. We have one person. We have a division manager, and then he has one employee working under him for all of our housing needs in the city. So they're stretched pretty thin, unfortunately. I think it's something that we would want to be able to do, but there's a lot of things that we just aren't able to, being such a small city.
When you're doing the permit applications, does it allow you to ask what the purpose is for, and at least get it up front, whether they do it or not?
A lot of times we hear from people that they're creating units for a family member.
Yeah.
And sometimes also for income, obviously to rent it. But we haven't heard anyone say that they would want to rent it as an Airbnb.
Okay, all right. To me, I think it's helpful to kind of know that you're going in the right direction if you can figure that out.
Yeah.
On the transportation side, I think, you know, you look at most of the pictures we see, there's lots of very pretty bike lanes. I think there's a lot of money going into bike lanes. Are you able to see like fewer incidents or, you know, accidents? I mean, is it getting safer? Are you able to figure that out? And then kind of how is usage going, you know, as you
Yes.
put these things in?
Definitely. Rumrill has gotten a lot safer. We were able to measure that, and the number of accidents with pedestrians and cyclists has gone down, I think, almost 100%. Like, it's really gone down a lot. So we're already seeing benefits from that, and the traffic calming from that project. We still have a learning curve. It's still new for San Pablo to have bike lanes of the quality that we have on Rumrill right now. So we are dealing with conflicts with parking. So we have folks complaining of less parking and parking in the bike lane, but our police department is working on education initiatives for those people that are violating, you know, the bike lane access. So I think it's a matter of the network in San Pablo is still a bit limited. So to feel like you're safely cycling through the city, we're not quite at that point yet in terms of like a watershed moment where more people are cycling, but we're definitely seeing more cyclists using the bike lanes, and it's happening, but it's just still slow, and we have more investments to be made, I think.
Okay, good. I think the safety improvements are worth it, so thank you.
Definitely.
Thanks. All right, so I'll follow up on that question. On extending the bike lanes to get to the mass, right? I know everything's staged in 2-year increments and there's capital budgets. What's sort of the plan to get to that next phase?
Matt, do you want to answer that?
Yeah. Okay. So, a couple of the projects that we mentioned, the San Pablo Avenue Bridge is a project that will fill in a gap that we have in bike lanes. We also, this period was for ended at 2023.
Right.
In our next 5-year plan, we have a mobility hub project. We have a project on Broadway and El Portal, and we also have a couple other projects within the next 5 years to try to bridge areas where we have gaps on San Pablo Avenue. So yeah, we're working on it, and it's just, again, budget cycles and trying to get there. But we know where our gaps are, and we're trying to fill them.
That's good. It's just helpful to know you got a plan, right? And I definitely get there's budget cycles and you're looking out for the long term. And then one question on the housing side, you talked about the building on that busy corner that has the retail on the bottom. And I know they're having trouble getting the state grant to get that built. But my question is actually around the retail. Is there enough traffic? Is there other retail in that area? And I know that might not be your expertise, but I think one of the things we've seen in like Hercules, I know, and Pinole, there's places that have, they've done this where they've put retail on the ground floor, even in Walnut Creek near like the BART station and stuff. And just because retail's there doesn't mean there's a retailer that wants to go there unless there's enough people. So I'm asking my question with that in mind. I don't want it to be failed open space that's not developed properly.
Yeah, I think that's something that's a bit of a concern for us, but I do remember when we were processing the entitlements for the Alvarado Gardens units, we were making sure that they had enough height in their residential retail spaces that one of the larger corporations could potentially come in and fill them. So that's not limited just to local, because that could be less consistent possibly, or less investment there.
And let me add just something to that. So the city of San Pablo is also working on some AI applications that we're trying to incorporate that do analysis on some of our structures and business types and where traffic is coming to our existing businesses and see what resources and what commercial things we don't have that seem to be where our citizens are going to in other areas, and trying to go after. Our Economic Development Corporation is trying to go after that. Our development group is trying to go after that. So we're actively trying to find things that are a good fit for the community. And we're doing that by analysis of where, your cell phone tells people where you're going. So we use that to kind of track where people from San Pablo are leaving to, and see if we can attract those businesses in.
That's great. I like that there's a plan and you're aware of that. And I also give kudos to the height, because I've heard that's a big problem with some of those buildings is the developer doesn't want the height, and then you can't build a restaurant in there or other things. So I just commend you on that.
Just wanted to start with a kudos on the Rumrell Avenue project. It's beautiful. The bioswales look, very well designed. I could see maybe some potential parking issues, but I'm really glad to hear that there's been speed reduction and more bike usage. So great job with that. And it does look like you're really leveraging your grants really well. So I want to commend you on that. And I know with limited budget, I was going to ask you about the Safe Routes to School and where you are with that.
Yes, I believe that's on pause right now. Do you have any updates for that, Matt?
Yeah, we do have a couple of projects that are on the next 5-year plan. Most specifically, trying to incorporating that in with the mobility hub and our El Portal Broadway projects, where we actually have an education aspect to go into the schools. So we're trying to educate the children on how to act around crosswalks. Obviously, like everyone else, we're doing daylighting. And so trying to catch up with that, like every agency, and also, again, incorporating safe routes to schools in the design of pavement projects moving forward as well. So we have some specific safe routes for schools projects, but we're trying to focus on where those intersect with pavement needs, so that we can kind of, again, cast that greater net like what we did at Rumrell.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a comment on that is, the West Contra Costa schools are financially strained. They don't have any busing. So, the Safe Routes to School could really help mitigate that, morning and afternoon pickup drop-off issues. And perhaps the Street Smarts team might be able to help there, or even just consult on some of those educational pieces. Yeah, thank you.
I'll swing back around the other direction. Member Shakiran, if you can hear me, if you have any questions for Mel, over to you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I have one question. As part of the transportation element of this presentation, you mentioned, or it was in the slides, that there are new traffic signal systems in both of those roadway improvement projects. So are these brand new traffic signals that were funded and designed and constructed? And how many?
Okay, so on Rumrell, I think we added about 5 rapid, the rectangular rapid flashing beacons. And then we've been adding specifically around schools and areas where we know that there's a lot of pedestrian traffic. The RRFBs to at intersections more as with our maintenance crews. So trying to make that dollar go further by using the staff on hand. And I think we've done about 4 within the last year. And in this reporting period, I think we did 3. So we're trying to incorporate that as much as possible. And then in the design for the Broadway El Patel project and the Mobility Hub project, we are trying to increase that and focus more on like bus stops and access to bus, the embarkation points at bus stops. So that's where we're moving.
Okay, so these were all mainly RRFPs, rectangular rapid flashing beacons, right?
That is correct.
Okay, not like a full-blown traffic signal at an intersection.
Yes, correct.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Were there any right-of-way acquisitions, or you didn't need any right-of-ways for any of the improvements, transportation improvements?
Yeah, for the most part, we're trying to keep it within the existing right-of-way so that we don't have to add, because that purchase of right-of-way process can be, as many of you know, years. Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Member Shakir. And Member Esquivel?
Yes. Looking forward into the future projects, are there any future projects where you'll do signals that improve the speed of or the flow of traffic, roundabout, or cameras?
Yeah, so right now, when we did Rumrow, we put in a conduit for trying to move towards a video signalization. We do have a lot of cameras. We are switching from loops to radar, trying to do more LiDAR detection. So, but we're doing that in a site-specific, when we get to major intersections. There's not very many streets that are signalized in San Pablo. We're mostly residential. So, and we have a lot of projects to do in residential areas first. So we get there as we can, but that is our plan. So again, we have a plan. We're just trying to get there.
Will the cameras capture driver's license plates or just movement?
No, just movement. Now, the PD, the San Pablo Police Department, we do have a lot of video enforcement. And we are a city that uses drones, and they do capture license plates. So we have built, on the roof of our police station, we have a drone nest, the new police station that we're building. And we have another drone nest on the north end of town, in Wanless Park. And we're also discussing a third drone nest in the Rumrow area. So with those capabilities, that gives PD the ability to use the drones more effectively and do that video enforcement where they can capture license plates.
Okay. And no plans for roundabouts?
One of the things, especially like with the San Pablo Avenue Bridge, we looked at a roundabout. We had our consultant, Mark Thomas, look at that. The level of service, because that intersection has entry points from 5 different directions, and the traffic loads during the day vary what they do, roundabout was not the answer.
Yeah.
So we will consider it where it's beneficial, but if it's not beneficial, there's we're a city of very little means, so we're going to try to get the most bang for our buck as possible. Plus, roundabouts, especially for that project, would have entailed, again, buying additional right-of-way. So, we're already built out, so buying right-of-way to implement that would be difficult.
Okay, thank you. Very good presentation. And just any future big projects or for San Pablo, like into the future?
Yeah, well, the San Pablo Avenue Bridge is $22.5 million. That's a heavy lift. We've been applying for RAISE grants, which is now the BUILD grant. We've been trying to look for means to get large sums of money for that project. That one's a particularly, heavy lift for an agency like San Pablo. Yeah, most of our projects are going to be a lot of, getting paving, the project I mentioned already about the mobility hub, which is where we're working with the Contra Costa, near the Contra Costa Community College, with the bus stop there, their huge transit hub, and Broadway and El Portal, which are major streets in San Pablo. That pretty much sums up what we have.
Thank you very much. Great
Yeah,
presentation.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, just one observation and then a quick question. So the one observation is just if you guys do get to a point where San Pablo Ave or something, you need to do some signaling, I hope that you're jumping in on any of the money that's available from the multi-million-dollar project that's been funded by CCTA that they got the grant for tying in smarter signaling throughout the county. And you can ask Matt for more information about that if you're not already in on that. And then the second thing is a question, an actual question. So do you, one of the things that I have heard is that, city of small population, small budgets and so forth, which I'm very familiar with. We're in Clayton. We have the same population as you. If you're dyslexic, we've got about 13,000. The question I have is, do you have any things on your radar that you, with respect to transportation, that it looks like the CapEx planning, out 10, 20, you're already seeing yourselves start to fall behind on, and you're a little worried about, probably not slurry and stuff like that, but I'm just, that's kind of Measure J kind of thinking. But are there some transportation things that you kind of know are your silent monsters that are building up in the budget? By the way, I've been very impressed. You've been getting money out of SB1 on a pretty regular basis, so you've got some good strategies for hitting the top of the mark bill every year. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, obviously, we just converted our garbage truck fleet to electric. It's the weight. It's the weight of vehicles on pavements that are already starting, that are beyond a slurry seal. That is what's making us nervous. Yeah. Is just how much money for, as cars weigh more and more, as EVs weigh so much more than what vehicles weighed 20 years ago, trying to keep your streets in a state of repair enough to try to, we did, almost 7 miles of slurry within this time period. But what do you do when the street is beyond a slurry seal? Slurry is cheap. So that's a concern that we have, is how do you address paving when you have to grind and pave, or when you have to get into the base, between what's going on with the need and then the environmental side of when you start going on large projects that get more than an acre, trying to mitigate your stormwater problems with that as well.
I've seen some interesting stuff. By the way, I'm not claiming to know anything about anything, but you've raised some interesting things, and there's a confluence of two things here that made me want to mention this. I'm doing a little bit of reading about some new surface materials that are being explored in other countries, actually, in European countries. But the approach is that the street surface is actually porous, and all of that water runs right. All of the surface water runs right into essentially canals that are underneath the city streets. I'm not talking about a small lift here, but the thing is, you're kind of pointing to a long-term trend, which might indicate a good reason for some CapEx redirection or something, because it could be that spending money in the traditional ways on the traditional surfaces, et cetera, is not going to be in the long term, sustainable. It might require some, I hadn't even thought about EV vehicles that could get heavy batteries. They weigh more. There's a heavier duress on the street. I hadn't thought about that part. But then you mentioned the wastewater or the runoff and stuff as well. And this just all kind of like instantly popped into my head about these porous streets, porous street materials that are being done.
Yeah, I mean, we're faced with being pulled in a lot of directions. And what is the best way to use your resources? One of the things we're, like most agencies, when utility companies, when our utility companies or districts are doing work in the area, we're trying to, hold off on, you have your quarterly meetings with them to try to figure out where they are so that you can come back and I know that road's bad, but I'm going to hold off for another couple of years, because they're going to work in there, and then I can do an agreement with them to maybe pave a third of the width of the street from their budget so that my budget goes further. So those are the things that you have to look at as a public agency moving forward. So, you look for those, you use the tool of coordination. You have to do it.
It's impressive. It's a lot of plates moving at the same time.
Yeah, thanks again. And you've got my head spinning about the weight of an electric garbage truck. I'm very aware of Class 80 semis. If you electrify them, they drop the payload of the vehicle. Now you need more of them. So there's a snowball that I've seen that says you need twice the number of EV trucks than you need standard, diesel trucks to deliver the same amount of payload, but hadn't thought about the implications of larger garbage trucks on streets that aren't designed for 40-ton truck traffic.
Right, and they go in your neighborhood every week.
Absolutely. 3 times 3. One for compost, one for recycle, and one for the main garbage. How much more does one of those, what's the relative weight of a classic garbage truck versus a new one? Is that a number you have off the top of your head?
It's not a number I have on the top of my head.
I'll look it up.
But
you got
it is
thinking.
significant.
You got me thinking. Just a couple of questions. San Pablo Avenue, I was looking at, and you're right, that's a huge project for a smaller city. And there's about in the order of 20 million there. And I see 7.3 million unfunded, according to the little slide in the pre-read material. Is the whole project on hold until you get that funding? I see construction of 14.5 million, but I assume that actually hasn't been spent in fiscal year 23-24. So I'm just trying to understand how to interpret the information on that.
Oh, the hunt for money. Yes. So we have applied for the RAISE grant probably 3 times, and under the administration change, the RAISE grant is now called the BUILD grant, which was the name that it was when the current president was president last. So yes, we are actively trying to go after money to build that. The other thing with that project, the alignment of one of the East Bay Mud trunk mains, one of their major transmission lines, runs through that area. Also, there is a major PG&E gas line, transmission line that runs through that area. So we're trying to parlay, and maybe help if we can influence the timing of their projects with ours, so our project may shift in time if we can, or ask them to build part of their project with ours so that maybe we can pull resources. But, those are all really big lifts, and with agencies that deal with a base that is so much bigger than San Pablo that, we can ask, but we can't necessarily guarantee that something will naturally work.
So all of that to say for the build-out construction strategy, are you, and there was a comment which resonated with me about economy of scale if construction of all the anticipated work could be done together. Are you kind of just holding it all off until you feel like you got the critical mass of funding? Are you going to piece it together? How are you going to
We're in design. We are currently doing our environmental, because those things aren't going to change. So you push your design and your environmental studies as far as you can. You know, you work with Caltrans, you get your alignment approved, you try all those things, and you keep applying for more grants. And so that's just, in a way, I mean, that's what you do, hoping that, you know, we're an underserved community. You know, you hope that you check enough boxes off that grant application that you are a good fit if someone will just acknowledge it. The other thing is you end up having to turn to your lobbyists and your local representatives and ask them for assistance, because if they're not participating and on the same page with you, you're not going to get anywhere. So that's the approach. You know, you don't do one thing, you do as many things as you can, all with the same goal, and you say what your goal is, and you put it out there enough that you hope enough people hear it and get behind you.
Gotcha. So what I'm seeing on this slide is you're actually spending more design environmental money now.
Absolutely.
Hoping that you feel the love from some grant to get you where you need to be with
Right. I mean, that's a significant intersection. That has ties to every city north of us to every city south of us. I mean, from Oakland to Berkeley to Albany, you know, to El Cerrito to Richmond, San Pablo, Hercules, Pinole, Rodeo. I mean, San Pablo touches us all. And that is the alternative route for Highway 80. So you just drive that home as hard as you can to remind everyone of that and say, and we just need this help.
Gotcha. Just one other question. I'm surprised. I don't know if it's a pleasant surprise or not, but you came into fiscal year 2021-22 with a almost $3 million balance on the Measure J funds, received $500,000, spent $20,000, so you came out of that fiscal year with $3.25 million. Then fiscal year 22-23, you received $578,000 through the funding mechanism, spent $10,000. Earning a lot of interest, so and since interest rates are up, you've almost got $4 million in that account. That's a phenomenal number. I guess a couple things. One is there any issue with it being this may be a math question, is there any issue under Measure J with it being accumulated like that? And is this a self-funding of San Pablo if you can't get money anywhere else? Kind of it caught my attention that such a small jurisdiction has been able to sock away this much of the Measure J funds, and what's the scheme there?
Well, the scheme is that if I don't get someone to fund that bridge for me, I got to find a way to fund it.
Okay.
You know, I mean, and like I said.
Sorry, San Ramon's doing something similar. They're using their Measure J funds, but they're committing future Measure J funds going, you know, into the future there.
Yeah. You know, Rumrail, you know, we did use Measure J funds on Rumrail to get that through. You know, sometimes it's nice to have, as we say, it's the color of money, what you can use it for and what you can't. And so trying to get as much money from other sources so that you can use your Measure J for what you save it the way you really want to. That's been the plan. That's the goal, is what money can we get that's specific and spend that first. So that's something that's Measure J that we can use for multiple projects can kind of be used where we want.
Gotcha. Well, I would hope you get some of that grant funding and you can use the Measure J for your local roads versus a major San Pablo Avenue that's quite a burden to place on a small community. So I applaud your approach and hope that rainy day money can rain on your local streets. when all is said
We
and
do
done.
too.
Can I ask a follow-up question to what you just, Matt, what are the rules on like the time, I mean, so I get the strategy and everything, I'm just wondering like, what are the rules on timing, spending, holding on to the money? If you could just clarify that for us, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, so in Measure J, there's no language that states the LSM funds need to be spent on any sort of schedule. The point of the LSM reporting form is so that you and everybody knows that the city is either holding on to the money or spending the money. And, you know, cities are allowed to, you know, some cities just try and drain it every year, spend what they get. Some cities do build up till they get a certain amount, whether they're doing a citywide pavement program or something like that, or a larger project. It's certainly within the city's purview.
Kind of a comment for Matt, and I think the cities like in our jurisdiction. So this weight thing is quite interesting. I'd never heard of it either. And I think if maybe for the commission to, you know, push Sacramento or something, because the cities are paying the price for those. Those EVs are not paying any gas taxes. You know, there's changes afoot, but I think this is an even stronger argument to kind of ease the playing field or something so that they're paying, because we clearly have more of them than most states. And it sounds like the cities are going to deal with the bag and the citizens are going to deal with worn out roads sooner than before. So that, I don't know if that's something we can do or the council can kind of lobby a little harder with Sacramento, but it's certainly an idea. And then one follow-up question, the drone thing was kind of interesting. Is the police department unusual with the number of drones? And I'm just really, it's sort of off topic, so keep it short, but I mean, are they using it so that they don't have as many squad cars out because they can cover more territory? And then what's the reaction from citizens about noise?
The drones aren't very loud.
Okay.
And so that hasn't been a concern. But San Pablo's been the police department has been very assertive in their use and application. Other cities like San Francisco are doing similar things. So we're not necessarily, we're not the first, but we're definitely in the group leading the application. So, but the police really, having a facility, we're currently building a new police station, having the drone nest on top of the police structure will give them capacities that we haven't yet realized yet.
It's interesting. Thank you.
Great discussion, everyone. Is there any final follow-ups before I ask Emily if we've received any written public comments? Emily, have we received any?
We do not have any public comments.
Very good. No one from the public in the room, so we can come to a motion to recommend the compliance checklist that has been
I'd like to move that we approve the report as presented.
and second by Member Esquivel. Emily, please conduct a roll call vote.
Member Ash?
Aye.
Member Banker?
Aye.
Member Esquivel? Yes. Member Esselstego?
Aye.
Member Miller? Member Patel?
Yes.
Member Saunders?
Yes.
Member Shakaran?
Aye.
Member Stark?
Aye.
Member Wayne?
Aye.
Vice Chair Lovejoy?
Aye.
Chair Carr?
Aye.
All right, motion passes unanimously with members Erickson and James absent.
And Mr. Chair, if I may, I'd also like to point out that I don't believe you have a representative currently in this group, right? Is anybody here from? No. So you could work with Emily and your clerk. If you have an awesome person, we don't want anybody here. We like people who are asking clearly very good questions like my colleagues are. So I would just, I want to put that thought in your head that we would like to recruit a member from your fair city to join us.
Yeah, I would add to that, and I think it would be very good to have someone from San Pablo on this committee, because I didn't realize that San Pablo is the third most densely populated town in the Bay Area after San Francisco and I think Daly City. So it is a very densely populated. There's more and more desire for density, you know, in all the state. And I think someone who lives in that sort of town can bring a lot of perspective to this group.
Chair, I did just want to add, you know, the Rumrill Boulevard project was mentioned both by staff and by the vice chair, but I do want to encourage folks to check that out. If you're ever in West County, it is really the first true complete streets project in Contra Costa County, and the city did an amazing job, and it has been recognized. Council member Rita Xavier is on our board, and at last week's board meeting here, she talked about all the awards that have already been received by the city. So I think probably in the report in 2 years, we'll probably get to hear about all that kind of stuff, but just want to let you know that it's a very well recognized and deservedly so project, funded in part by Measure J, but also a variety of other funds. So I just want to give the city props for that and encourage you all to take a look if you really want to see what can be done with a 4-lane, 5-lane road, you know, through the middle of a densely populated city, made a lot safer. Sorry, that's my 2 cents tonight.
Thank you, Matt, and thanks again to both of you. So, our next item is another action for approval of a checklist that will be introduced by Matt and presented by, is it Yvette or Iveta? Yvette. Yvette Ortiz.
Yeah, so traveling south along San Pablo Avenue, that was the topic of a lot of City of San Pablo's remarks, and I'm sure it will be part of El Cerrito's remarks. San Pablo is kind of the main street for most of West County. And I'll just introduce Yvette Ortiz. She is the Public Works Director for the City of El Cerrito and a checklist veteran. So I'm just going to turn it over to her and let her introduce the city's 2022-2023 GMP checklist.
Good evening, Chair and committee members. Thank you for having me to present on the city's checklist. And yes, it's not my first time coming here, so I hope to share new information with you. But just for those of you who may not be familiar with El Cerrito, we're just actually hit a 26,000 population, and so that's a mark for us. And then we're just under 4 square miles, so a small city, but not as dense as the city of San Pablo for sure. And we're right at the county limit, so Albany, right next door, is within the city of Alameda. So we do also cross over and work with several Alameda County agencies. And as Matt mentioned, our transportation system is definitely influenced by the San Pablo Avenue. For us, it's our main street, not just, you know, a through street, but a main street. Most of our businesses are located along San Pablo Avenue. But we also have the BART stations, our lines. We have 2 BART stations, so quite a bit given our size, partly because there is none in Albany. So we got the second station. And then, of course, we're also influenced by I-80. So I-80 San Pablo Avenue. One of our unique features in El Cerrito is the Ohlone Greenway, which is a Class 1 bike and ped path that connects to Berkeley to the south and to the Richmond Greenway in Richmond. And then we also have are served by AC Transit and generally transit-rich, given Del Norte BART station, which acts as the end-of-the-line station for BART, because we're so close to I-80. So we have transit lines coming from various counties into El Cerrito. So today, I'd like to just highlight some of our larger transportation projects, which are in our checklist, as well as major development, including the general plan amendment that we discussed in our checklist, and then highlight our housing production. So in terms of, we have 2 large complete streets projects that we've been working on during the reporting period. The largest one that was bid and award, it was awarded in 2023 after several years of development in terms of project design and going through the Caltrans project development process, because it's partly or mostly on State Route 123, which is San Pablo Avenue. So in El Cerrito, unlike in City of San Pablo, most of San Pablo is a state highway because it was served that regional transportation before I-80 was built. And so San Pablo Avenue to Cutting and is State Route 123. And so we had to go through an extensive Caltrans process to develop this project. We were happy to award it in late 2023 and start construction in 2024. It's a $15 million design and construction project, and $2.3 million is Measure J Transportation Livable Communities that matched about $5 million in federal fund, and then there are $2 million in affordable housing sustainable communities funding. So lots, just like City of San Pablo, we cobbled a lot of different grant funding to make it happen. And then, well, we are in the middle of construction and hope to complete it in this fall. So here on the screen, you'll see the before on the left, top left, is what it looked like before. Highway, auto-focused, missing crosswalks, no bike facilities, no development. But on the top right thing, you see the vision, the multi-family unit. We're right next to the Del Norte BART station here. So multi-family unit, new crosswalks, new protected bikeways. On the bottom there, you see those bikeways being constructed. So it's been an exciting project. It's about, construction timeframe is over a year because we have to keep traffic moving while we're building it. And our community has been patient. So we're getting to the finish line. Another big complete streets project is Richmond Street. We worked closely with the Contra Costa Transportation Authority. They took the lead and collaborated with multiple local jurisdictions to apply for the Safe Streets for All grant. And we actually received $8 million in those grant funds for this project. Richmond Street is kind of the core, a minor arterial street in El Cerrito that connects the El Cerrito Plaza BART station on the south through several schools, civic destinations, and Del Norte BART station on the north. And we're currently, so the successful application was submitted in 2022, which is the reporting period, and we're currently in design with a hopeful to start construction in 2026. We're working really, really closely with the CCTA as the project manager. They're helping us work. They did the consultant solicitation, so the consultant contract is through them. We're working really closely with our community because we, reaching out to our community, and we're informing the design. So it's been a really great project experience. So moving forward to some more like regional interagency transportation projects, we have several of those happening right now. The one that's been in the book the longest is the I-80 Central Avenue Interchange Improvements Phase 2. Phase 1 was completed maybe 6 years ago. The CCTA took the lead on that, and that was a more focused project, this in terms of traffic signal changes. The second phase is a roadway realignment, and that image is on the left here. And that phase is a joint project between City of Richmond and City of El Cerrito. Richmond is taking the lead, working really closely with El Cerrito, and it includes realigning several local roadways to, wait, can you see my, oh yeah, you can see my cursor here. So this is Central Avenue here. I-80 is off the screen here to your left. We get a lot of congestion on Central Avenue, especially on the weekends, because there's some regional commercial here, like Costco is here on the left-hand side. We have the Pacific East Mall, which is also a regional shopping center. And so there's a lot of congestion here, closely spaced intersections. So this phase 2 is gonna realign some of the local streets so that we increase the spacing between the two signals. It requires right-of-way. Richmond's in the right-of-way phase right now. We're working closely with them on the design because this one signal is within the City of El Cerrito. And they're hoping to start construction in late 2026. The other project that we've been working on with Caltrans, the West Contra Costa Transportation Commission, and Richmond is the Central I-80 undercrossing ped and bike improvements, and that's the image here on your top right. This, again, Central Avenue, tons of traffic, but it's the shortest connection between a BART station and the Bay Trail. And so we have been trying to close the gap, and this is a key part of it. Caltrans was successful in obtaining an active transportation program grant for that, and the local agencies, Richmond and El Cerrito, are providing some local matching funds, and they're in the design process right now to build this off-street ped and bike path. And then the City of Richmond and El Cerrito are trying to build those other gaps close those gaps east of the freeway. And then the El Cerrito Plaza BART transit-oriented development, transportation improvements. The El Cerrito Plaza BART station, the city has been working with BART to do transit-oriented development here to replace, put housing on the parking lots. And so during this reporting period, we were planning that out and planning not just the housing, but also the transportation improvements, ped and bike improvements to serve that development. And so, and then finally, we've been closely working with the Caltrans, who will be repaving San Pablo Avenue, and trying to work with them to, during this reporting period, to add additional pedestrian safety improvements as part of their paving project. And but their funds are limited as well, so we've been trying to help them find additional funding to add more protected crosswalks along San Pablo Avenue. So in terms of development and the general plan amendment that occurred in 2022, it's related to our San Pablo Avenue specific plan that has been guiding development in El Cerrito since 2014. It really did make a difference in terms of increasing the amount of housing that was built. And the original environmental document had a capacity of just over 1,700 residential units and 243 square feet of commercial space. By 2020, over 1,500 of those units had been entitled, meaning approved. We really saw a big jump during that short period. We streamlined the development process. And at that time, development has since slowed for sure, as the state laws have changed. We were really welcoming density in El Cerrito, but state laws changed, so Berkeley, for example, was building more. And so our rents can't keep up with the city of Berkeley, and so it just financially wasn't as attractive anymore. But in 2020, there was a lot of entitled projects. And so at that time, we updated the specific plan to increase capacity. And so we did a full environmental analysis and increased the residential units by 2,500 and also commercial space. The general plan amendment was required because we were adding a property to the specific plan area. And that property was here, this on the right here. It's the red circle, right adjacent. It's one of the BART parking lots that they wanted to build on. And so we added that to the specific plan area. So we had to amend our general plan to add that. And we went through the required review by our neighboring jurisdictions and the West Contra Costa Transportation Advisory Committee, and we shared the environmental documents and did a compliance review for our action plan. So wanted to walk you through some specific developments that were built or approved during this reporting period. The one we were super excited. You saw this in the in the transportation project photo sim earlier. This is the built project in 2022 Mayfair, phase 1, which was the market rate housing, was 156 units. And yeah, it's right across the north of BART station and right next to the complete streets improvements that we're building. They all built off each other because of this development and the complete streets project we were building. We were competitive for the Affordable Housing Sustainable Communities funding that comes through the state. And then, so that you see here, it's on the north end of our city, right next to the BART station. And then phase 2 had submitted its building permit review during the reporting period. And phase 2 is the affordable component, and it's 69 units. And it broke ground last year. We had another approved project of 63 residential units and 6,000 square feet here. A very interesting development because it wraps a Chevron gas station. But that's where the lots were available, and they had a very creative design and commercial space. Then, as I was just talking about, the El Cerrito Plaza BART TOD, the first building was approved during the reporting period, and it's the affordable building, and 70 affordable units, and it's submitted their building permit, and it's anticipated to start construction this year. And then during the same time, we were reviewing the full master plan development for the BART station, and so you see here it's 6 additional buildings, a total of 743 new units. And this again, this is at around the Plaza BART station, or actually at the Plaza BART station on the parking lots. Moving on to just our production of housing, but from very low to moderate and above moderate, we are projected to meet, with all the proposed and entitled projects, are projected to meet all levels of affordability, except for moderate. But with the Plaza BART TOD, which was approved after this reporting period, we anticipate meeting all our regional housing needs allocation. And these are just additional resources about our housing and development projects if you're interested, and contact information for myself, our community development director, who we work really closely with, and our housing manager. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks very much, Yvette. I will start on the opposite end this time to give Rosa a first crack at El Cerrito.
Thank you, Yvette. Awesome presentation. I just wanted to share with everyone in El Cerrito, the neighbors have spotted, I think we spotted a wolf and a coyote, and the turkeys are still alive. So just wanted to share that with everybody. So Yeah, I forgot something, but yeah, so, anyway, so, on the quarter underneath Central Avenue, the pedestrian, how much does that cost for that project?
The undercrossing at the freeway,
Yes,
I don't have that number.
because I think a bridge was 5 million.
So this one's not a bridge, it's definitely.
Underneath.
It's underneath, street level, and they have the right of way. They're just building underneath, to the south of the street. Right now, it's, just unused. You'd have to grade, add lighting, definitely not the cost of a bridge. It's similar to, what you'll see on Powell Street in Emeryville, under I-80.
Okay, except the pedestrians will affect like cars trying to make cars trying to go through. Yeah, okay. Oh, well, just, one comment, I do walk on the street there. I will not take the pedestrian sidewalk because it's so dirty. So is there any plan to keep that area very super clean and safe?
Right, well, this is, it's supposed to help. We're widening that area, putting lighting, decorative features, and just adding more foot traffic will help. So definitely it's part of improving the whole look and feel of that area so people feel safer to walk there and bike.
Okay. And then for the San Pablo specific plan, there's nothing about improving the San Pablo Avenue? It's just all housing? Or that's a separate project, isn't there, for improving the lighting, the signals and everything?
No, that's a great question, actually. Yeah, the original San Pablo Avenue specific plan back in 2014 included both the complete streets elements, so improvements to San Pablo Avenue, and the development. I just focused on the update. The update really was just to increase the development capacity. The complete streets component stayed the same, but yes, that the plan there is to improve transit performance, to improve pedestrian safety, and add bike facilities where we can. And in Midtown, which is the midsection of San Pablo Avenue, we have a concept design for protected bikeways. And then currently, as part of the Del Norte Complete Streets, we're also building protected bikeways. And so, yes, they all work hand in hand together.
Okay. Well, thank you for your presentation. One comment, we did get a presentation on the Richmond Avenue. Somebody came to a local community meeting, so I know all about the Richmond project, so I do take Richmond. I love that street. I mean, I do drive slow, but I flow through Richmond. So I'm just really scared that it's going to slow me down. I do drive the speed. I do go slow. But we just go faster on Richmond Avenue than on San Pablo Avenue because of all the lights. And but thank you. Great presentation. Those are all my questions.
Thank you.
Just a fast question, Ed Miller, Clayton. What's been the negative, I'm sorry, see, I'm already not answering an open-ended question. What has been the reaction to the loss of parking as a result of the Plaza TOD? Sorry.
Yeah, I think there's been diverse kind of viewpoints about it. We have the community who really supports higher density housing and is really encouraging us to focus on active transportation improvements and transit improvements, so you don't have to drive. But we also realize some people have to drive to the BART station, and so BART's maintaining about 150 parking spaces within their lots or their property, and the city is working right now on an on-street parking management program, because there were parking studies that were done that said we have more than enough on-street parking within a walking distance to serve the BART station. So we just have to manage the parking because a lot of it is unregulated right now. And you actually, before COVID, when there was the parking lots were fully regularly used, people still would park on the local streets because it was free. So and BART was charging. But right now, the on-street parking management program is looking at charging for parking to manage demand and duration.
Thank you.
Member Shakiran, did you have any
thank
questions
you.
for Yvette?
No questions, but thank you for your presentation. It was very thorough and informative. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. And swinging round to Member Wayne.
Yes, a couple things. Yeah, I wasn't quite following, the rents can't keep up with Berkeley. What was that meant to be?
Oh, right. Just rents are higher in Berkeley, so it's like financially pencils to build housing. And the cost to build, they can make that back with their rents.
Okay,
And our El Cerrito rents just tend to be lower.
Right, yeah. I just want to, yeah, that's great that all the bicycle and pedestrian facilities that you're doing. That's great to see. What about your general plan? Are you guys in the process of updating that?
We've been updating elements of it. Just right now, we're currently updating the safety element. And in the past, we've updated the growth management element. We've updated some of our transportation and circulation sections, but we haven't done a full general plan update because it is very costly to update your full element. And so we just haven't been able to identify the funding to do a full general plan update. But we have been amending and just like one of them, as needed, we've done the housing element update. Yeah, so we've been updating it every few years.
Okay, yeah, I just noticed it was like 26. Usually you do about 30 years is about the stretch.
Yeah, our general plan is 1999.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, definitely on our list. We're constantly looking for funding, but it's not something that's you can easily get grant funding for. It's something that you have to usually use general funds to do, and there's a lot of competition for general funds.
All right, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you for the presentation, Yvette. Just a few questions. The first one, how has the city adjusted its transit plans or mobility plans in response to shifting, the post-pandemic travel?
Right. Well, we're very concerned about it because, we, a lot of our development plans, all this new housing is really dependent on having dependable transit service, both AC Transit and BART. And so currently what we're doing is just supporting the transit agencies in terms of their, seeking funding and maintain levels of service. So we're just really supporting the transit agencies. And in El Cerrito, it's AC Transit and BART. Otherwise, right now, really, we're just continuing to focus our development on San Pablo Avenue because that's where our transit lines are. And I think over the last couple of decades, our transit service has gone down, right? So we're very concerned about that. And really just continuing to support our transit providers.
Okay, and it's kind of slightly related to that, beyond infrastructure delivery, how is the city measuring or influencing actual changes in commuter behaviors?
That's a good question. I know that the city regularly participates in the National Community Survey. And so we'll be able to observe changes in our commuting patterns. That's basically how we're tracking it.
Okay. And I know you mentioned, I didn't know that it was an interstate prior, that there's an interstate that goes through there. Mm-hmm. So I learned something new today about that. But with that, what interagency governance model framework exists between El Cerrito and BART or AC Transit or any of the other major?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, the best body for us is West Contra Costa Transportation Commission. It's been super helpful for us in West County because a lot of us are smaller cities. Hercules, Pinole, San Pablo, El Cerrito are very small. So we do, and both BART and AC Transit and WestCat sit on the West Contra Costa Transportation Commission. So we find it super helpful. They lead projects, they lead grant efforts that cross jurisdictional boundaries. It's been a really helpful body for us.
Okay. Last question, more on the financing part, but just your outlook on sustaining, the multimodal infrastructure and roadway maintenance. And I guess hypothetically, should something happen to the economy and let's say Measure J source of funding goes down due to perhaps a recession, or, I think there's a lot of online shopping now that's taking place, so therefore that takes away revenue. So how are you all approaching that? Or what are your contingency plans?
Yeah, maybe I can start with the last part. Actually, the online shopping has benefited El Cerrito because of, was it the Wayfair law, where we do get a portion of the sales tax. So it has helped. In terms of, if we do rely on Measure J, return to source, for our regular operations and maintenance. And that means traffic signal maintenance, streetlight utilities. So we are, if Measure J were to go away without a replacement, it would hurt our maintenance and operations. In terms of how we are maintaining our multimodal infrastructure, the city has our half-cent sales tax for transportation purposes that was passed in 2008. So priority was to repave the streets, but it also now helps us, improve and maintain our bicycle facilities and other, rapid rectangular flashing beacons. And we also, SB1 has helped us, right? SB1 was definitely helping us now do more work on our sidewalks. So we've been able to do that when we weren't able to before. So we do have a variety of transportation funding. So we'll rely on that, but we also rely on grants. So, but those are capital improvements. But when you do capital projects, you can also do, incorporate some of the rehab that you need to do when you're doing improvements.
Thank you.
Well, I have to say, that's an impressive amount of building that took place. I mean, if I have that right, 2,500 residential units, 100,000 square feet of commercial space. Did that require the city to go out and woo the buildings? Was an economic development agency involved in bringing those builders in, or did that come to the city to have the builders actually approach you with these projects?
Well, the original amount entitled was 1,500. 1,500 units were entitled after the specific plan was adopted in 2014. We added capacity for 2,500, but those haven't come in yet. But the original, really, it's because we streamlined the way we did the environmental document for the development, so that facilitated development. They didn't have to do their own environmental studies to build their projects. So it was really about streamlining the environmental document as well as then the approval process. There were projects that if they met the requirements in the form-based code, they could be approved at a staff or commission level. It didn't have to go through like didn't always have to go to a planning commission. It could at some points be approved at the staff level. And so it just made projects more streamlined, and that's why we got that kind of really rush of projects when it was first adopted.
Nice. And were you able to get some public improvements out of some of these builders? And if so, what were some of those improvements that you saw?
Well, what we did was, when these projects were getting built, they were required to do frontage improvements, right? So sidewalks in front of their property. But what we did separately was we adopted a transportation impact fee to help us build the complete streets improvements. And so they were paying their fees, and that actually was some of the funding that we used to complete the funding for the Norte Complete Streets. So yeah, we collected the impact fee and then built improvements, larger projects. We were able to focus on the larger project that was a high priority for the city.
Did you see them ever bring anything extra to the table as a way of helping to streamline the approval?
Some projects did bring, there was one project that was entitled that included like an extra connection to the Ohlone Greenway from the back of their property. They were going to build a side access to the Ohlone Greenway. Unfortunately, that project didn't move forward. And so, but not a lot brought additional transportation improvements to the table because they were meeting the minimum requirements. They were paying the impact fee. So that was really what covered, met the city's goals.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, it's kind of similar to Member Bankert's comments. I was impressed by how a small city like yourself is able to kind of collaborate with other agencies to deliver a lot of big transportation projects in your city. So I was, I guess, curious how you've approached that and advocated for your projects for other agencies like CCTA and Caltrans and Richmond even to lead those projects and then sometimes even fund, big portions of them.
Yeah, we have to because we're such a small city. We really do have to rely on relationships, and so we do stay involved in the CCTA, our West Contra Costa Transportation Advisory Committee, both at a staff level and at a council level. So, yeah, I think it's that. It's just staying engaged in these sub-regional and regional bodies, and with Caltrans, really just reaching out to them. Whenever they reach out to us, we're definitely responsive, and so it just kind of goes back and forth.
Okay. And then I thought it was also curious what you mentioned earlier that when, before Berkeley was building housing, you guys had this boom of housing production, and then as soon as they started putting housing on the market, then it kind of shifted. So are you guys planning for that kind of shift now that other cities surrounding you are also going to have to meet these housing goals? And if so, like, how are you going to be?
We're looking at, are there opportunities to reduce costs for development? And is there, requirements that can be changed or removed to make those projects feasible? Because we really do want those projects. It benefits the city overall. Meet our goals, but also increase property taxes. So it's a goal for the city to help build those projects.
Yeah, and I thought your streamlining of the development entitlement process was also kind of unique. And you said that your city staff would then prepare the environmental document for the developers. So do they pay for that, and then you're just kind of providing your expertise to get the environmental document approved more efficiently for them?
No, when the specific plan was adopted in 2014, it included an environmental document.
Okay.
And it covered all of it. So when development would come through, our planning staff would just kind of do an initial
check of it. Check compliant.
And make
so
sure
you
that
got
it was
to ministerially approve those projects?
Yes.
Yeah, so, yeah, that's got to be the single money is money, I get that, but this, I don't want to use the word bypassing, more like fast tracking, ministerial approval for these things has got to be the single most attractive thing for developers, because the one thing that works against them even more than money is time. And so knowing that they can go from, breaking ground to actually, or drawing up the plans and actually be able to break ground and build that stuff without sitting through a year's worth of meetings is a big deal to them.
But that's changed now with the state laws have streamlined a lot of the approval process, so, yeah.
So you're not as competitive in that space anymore?
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So kind of just a general comment, kind of similar to what Member Patel said. I was kind of impressed with the complexity of the different projects and the interaction with Caltrans, the cities and stuff. So definitely, I think you guys, at least in the presentations, are more advanced or sophisticated than some of the other cities. So good for you. My question's really around kind of BART and transit. The bike lanes that you were describing in your presentation seem to be linking with the Bay Trail, which sort of strikes me as recreational and a good thing, but that's recreational. I would imagine that stuff along Richmond Avenue is more bringing commuters potentially either to work or BART. One of my kind of things with BART is there's, some people want to take a bike on BART because they've got to go somewhere at the other end. But if you're trying to get people to come to BART from a mile away, half a mile away, what about the bike parking? I mean, you go to Amsterdam or Rotterdam, I mean, there are a million bikes in racks, all formal, locked up, perfect, helping people to, address their bike needs. And I mean, where are we with that and trying to get more people commuting to the great transit centers you've got right there?
No, that's a great question. One of we worked with BART on the Berkeley El Cerrito Corridor Access Plan, which was looking at both at least 2 BART stations in Berkeley and one in El Cerrito, because they all had plans to replace parking with housing. And so BART was studying how to make access possible. And a lot of it was, improving our bike facilities. And in El Cerrito, we don't have a lot of, we don't have a lot of east-west bikeways that are like dedicated bike lanes. We just have a lot of shared facilities. So it was a priority to build some type of dedicated bike lanes on the streets bordering the BART stations, and BART did get funding for that. So we are working with BART to design those east-west bikeways to serve the BART station. And then the Ohlone Greenway, at least immediately next to the BART stations, go right into BART. And then BART, as part of this Plaza transit-oriented development, will be building a bike station. So, secure parking for bikes right at the station.
And does it seem like it's getting used more now, or you can't tell?
It's not built yet. So it'll be built as part of the housing when they come online.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Awesome. So thank you. And you covered my 2 general questions, which is how often do you coordinate with other jurisdictions? And you highlighted that well in your presentation, and that's because it sounds like you're doing it. So I really want to commend you, because we've had cities come in here and say, why would I talk to another city? Because roads don't stop. So thank you for doing that. And you not only have 1 member here, but you actually are fortunate to have 2 residents from El Cerrito here representing you guys. And so 2 awesome women here, I should say, not you guys, representing the city. So I want to just say thank you for their service. And we've, yeah.
I used to live there.
Matt, never mind. No. And I just wanted to weigh in on the whole housing thing for some of the questions that I'm hearing from my colleagues up here. Right now, the economics between the extreme rise in the cost of labor and materials and the interest rates, I work professionally with a number of builders, and they are all struggling for projects in most of the East Bay. Townhomes are working, apartments, condos are not penciling right now at all. The subsidized housing, the all low income, is working when they do get the state grants. We heard, I guess 2 people in Sao Paulo maybe it's the same person. He can't get his head around getting those state grants. But that's why you're seeing a slowdown with everybody's not necessarily hitting their housing numbers in the last year or 2 years. But El Cerrito has been known for trying to approve things quickly compared to most of the cities in Contra Costa County. So I also will point that out, that your city's done a good job of doing that compared to others. So I don't know if that sheds a light on some of the housing questions that people are asking and why there's vacancies or not building more. Thanks.
Thank you for your presentation. Question on, San Pablo Avenue is such a major corridor, not just for El Cerrito, but, regionally. I thought I saw a presentation that there's going to be a transit signal priority for that project as well. Is that right?
Right, there actually is traffic signal priority already along San Pablo Avenue, and it's been there for a while. AC Transit recently upgraded. I think what you're hearing now is this San Pablo Avenue multimodal corridor phase 3 study, and it's really looking at a bus-only lane. And we're working with Contra Costa Transportation Authority and the West Contra Costa Transportation Commission on that study because it crosses cities, right? It'll cross El Cerrito, Richmond, and San Pablo, connecting to like Contra Costa College. And so it's looking at a bus-only lane and what that would look like. So converting one of the mixed-use vehicle lanes to a bus-only lane to make bus travel more reliable and reliable.
Gotcha. And then along those lines, we've really noticed that your work with the interagencies is amazing, and it's not easy. But I was wondering, since you are, right on the county line with Alameda County, just curious, how is that working with this major corridor that goes through Alameda as well?
Yeah, so we definitely engage Albany. Because Alameda has done, well, initially when there was a San Pablo Avenue study that covered both Contra Costa and Alameda County. And that project study was led by the Alameda County Transportation Commission. And El Cerrito was engaged in that study very closely, and then so was the West Contra Transportation Commission. So then when that Alameda County study was done, then WICTAC took the lead with a phase 2 to really focus on Contra Costa jurisdictions because we're different than Alameda County. The density decreases, and so really looking at what would work better in our jurisdictions. And so there was a phase 2 study that really focused on concepts like a center running versus side running, bus rapid transit. And now this phase 3 is going to focus on doing more business outreach, community outreach, regarding potential impacts to parking and turn restrictions that would need to happen as part of a bus rapid transit on San Pablo Avenue.
Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
I really don't have a lot of questions. There's been so many good ones asked by members already. I have just one. And it caught my attention because Danville recently had a ballot measure for refunding or changing the funding of our landscape lighting and assessment district because it was a flat fee, and we know PG&E rates haven't stayed flat. When I look at the Measure J maintenance and audit reporting, there's a line item in both years for street lighting energy costs, over $100,000 in 2022-23, which certainly a necessary expense. But is there any, again, maybe back to you, Matt, as a Measure J question, is there any consideration around that sort of expenditure with Measure J funds, or does it need to be physical work on roads? Is there any concerns around those sort of expenditure with Measure J funds?
The return to source funding is very flexible and can be spent on virtually anything related to transportation or planning, participation in the RTPCs, the cooperative multi-jurisdictional planning. So yeah, it is meant to be very flexible. Some of the other funding sources under Measure J are specific to different, programs and modes, but the return to source is very flexible.
Okay, so it can be used for operating
Staff
costs.
time, yeah, anything, yeah.
Okay. Well, I just pulled it up. It looks like our measure passed, but I guess if it had failed, this would have been an option for keeping our lights on. So.
And we have the same issue in El Cerrito. Our lighting and landscaping assessment district has been flat since the 80s, and so it definitely has not kept up. And the city did try to pass a new assessment district in like 2016, and it failed. So I'm happy that your measure passed.
It did pass, and ours had only been around since 1999, so it was not as in the hole if it was from the 80s. And of course, then the other cost is water, right? Water's gotten so much more expensive if you're for your landscaping. In your landscaping, East Bay Mud's not inexpensive either. That was my only question. Just wanting to, because we're actually entrusted to be very clear on those things. So I appreciate that. So with that, I will see if there are any further follow-up questions from anyone on the committee. And seeing none, I will confirm with Emily the status of any written public comments.
We do not have any public comments.
Excellent. That brings us to a motion for approval of the El Cerrito.
I'll move that
compliance
we
checklist.
accept and approve the presentation as received.
And I second that.
Emily, with a motion and a second, can you please conduct a roll call vote?
Member Ash?
Aye.
Member Bankert?
Aye.
Member Esquivel? Yes. Member SL Sego?
Aye.
Member Miller?
Aye.
Member Patel?
Yes.
Member Saunders?
Yes.
Member Shakaran?
Aye.
Member Stark?
Aye.
Member Wayne?
Aye.
Vice Chair Lovejoy?
Aye.
Chair Carr?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes unanimously with members Erickson and James absent.
Excellent. That concludes our regular agenda items. We move on to member and staff comments. And I do think we have some committee member sharing today.
Yes, so we had talked about possibly sitting in on other committees and reporting back to this body in terms of, what they're doing and possibly even sharing back. So I wanted to let you know that I have been keeping, I kept abreast of the Paratransit Coordinating Committee. It was last April 24th. So just a very quick update. It'll give you a flavor for what they do. So that they call it the PCC for short. There are always all these acronyms. There's 9 paratransit riders that are on the committee, 9 paratransit service providers, 6 social service agency staff members, and 2 non-voting funding agency staff members on this committee. So their big agenda right now is redoing the bylaws that are the governance structure for this committee. And to give you a background on why they're doing this, they had an active accessible transportation strategic plan that was adopted in March 2021. And there's this coordinating entity that was established. It's a centralized body that they're trying to form so that they can have a cohesive planning and implementation to coordinate 26 accessible transportation agencies. So this can provide a seamless, accessible, really dignified point of service for their riders. You can imagine each of these 26 agencies has their own jurisdiction and their own hours. So if you're trying to get a ride, it's very difficult to. Are you going to call 26 agencies to figure out your ride? Probably not. So this is kind of their big step. And I've been really interested in this because I have a neighbor who recently lost their ability to drive, and I give them rides to the grocery, et cetera. But I was able to give them some information on like Richmond Rides, which is in our area. So that was a cool service that, kind of looking into this, I was able to provide for that neighbor. So this is kind of a really cool step forward in the world of paratransit for the county. And then just to give you a quick flavor, I also looked into the Admin and Projects Committee that was on April 3rd. So they had a lot on their agenda. I'll just go over the bullet points really quickly. So they were terminating a resolution with Beep because they were purchasing 2 shared autonomous vehicles. They approved plans, specs, and estimate for construction and advertised for bids for the transit bus on shoulder testing at Gomentum Station. So this relates to the Innovate 680 with the transit bus on shoulder project. And then they approved an agreement with Kimley Horn for technology equipment, procurement, installation, configuration. This is construction at Gomentum. They had a 2026 State Transportation Improvement Program process review and call for projects, a legislative update like we got from Lindy. Another Innovate 680, they had an amendment for engineering, and then they also had a CAV update on Gomentum Station operations. So CAV is Connected Autonomous Vehicles. So just to give you a little bit more background on that, so Gomentum Station had kind of like their 1 year of a new operator. So they were giving a little bit more, sharing more about how things were going there. And since this is kind of an interesting topic to me, I thought I would elaborate a little bit. So their facility is near capacity. They have some site limitations imposed by the Navy. Of course, as you know, there's no long-term prospects because the city of Concord is developing this land, even though that'll be 20 years or so in the future. So they are looking for sites for expansion, for testing autonomous vehicles. So two of the lands that they're looking at are U.S. Steel and also UC Berkeley site. It's called Richmond Field Station. So kind of an exciting development there. So that's kind of a flavor of two of the other committees.
Anybody else? I think, did Matt sneak away?
He did sneak away, yes.
Yeah, because I was going to ask him, we had talked about perhaps not a prescriptive rota, but sort of a voluntary, I'll sign up and hear what our authority board is up to and report back on it. So I'll take that offline with him and see if we can maybe get something set up like that would be available.
Heads
to
up,
us.
it's like a 2-hour, 2.5-hour meeting.
Do it remotely.
Probably longer than ours.
Yeah, do it remotely.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I have one little thing when you're done.
I am done.
Okay. I attended today a workshop by the DA and police task force on sex and labor trafficking, and I don't even know what I want to share other than I wanted to bring it up because it is happening in every one of our towns, rich, poor, dense, rural. There is slave labor going on in construction and maintenance trades where they're just forced to work. The sex trafficking of minors or even older peoples is going up, not going down. Places of massage parlors, nail salons, like something they said, like they said probably 20 to 30% of nail salon workers in the county are like slave labor. It just, I don't know, as a father of 3 daughters, I just wanted to sort of like, I know that's nothing actionable or anything, but this is there, and the police officer there who came in from Brentwood and leads this task force really was like, if you see something, say something, and I just thought I would
Did they share any
because it was so
telltale signs on like nail salons and other businesses that might be engaging in trafficking and slave labor?
I don't claim to be an expert on this, so I think my summary of that would be look for intimidation, look for people who are scared to share. Like, so they may look like they have a normal person and a normal job, but maybe they are like they get vanned there and they get like vanned home and they work like an 18-hour days, and then there's like 20 or 30 of them going to like one house, and like then they get picked up the next day and they don't necessarily know what town they're in or where. Yeah. So I just was like, I didn't even know this was really happening. They talk about just every hotel. Don't think, you know, if you're the Lafayette Park Hotel versus like the Motel 6 on Monument Boulevard or something, that there's a difference. It's happening the same all around us. And so it was kind of like an awareness, and just again, be aware, right? See something, say something was, I think, my biggest takeaway, and just be cognizant of, like, there is a big issue out there, right? Where people's freedoms are restricted. They're scared. They do these things because they're scared for their safety, right? They do it because they have to feel like they have to live, or they won't have any other place to go. Okay, sorry to be so depressing. It clearly is bothering me.
Sure. Thanks, Jared. Correspondence communication, I think there is none today.
We have none, yeah.
Okay, thank you. As always, future agenda items, if anybody has them, you can pass them on to staff and they will add it to the ongoing list. And with that, we come to the end of our meeting, which we will adjourn at 8:01 p.m.
Thank you for the